If you're thinking about upsizing to a larger home, whether it's for more space for your family or just a little bit more space for yourself, you've come to the right place. So if you're thinking about buying that bigger home, it can be a daunting task, but I'm going to teach you how to go through it step by step and make it as stress-free as possible. So step one is easy. We're just going to evaluate why you want a bigger home. Let's just make a list. Literally, get a piece of paper and a pen and we'll number it. Do you need more bedrooms? Do you need more square footage? What do you absolutely have to have? What would be nice to have? Do you even know how to measure square feet? We'll make a plan and figure that all out for you. Another factor to consider when you're buying a larger home is how long you're going to be there. Is it just a short-term solution for a few years? Is it your forever home? Are you looking at raising a larger family there? Are you thinking about knocking down walls? What are you going to do with the space? Those are all things that you need to consider as well. Step two, when you're getting excited about buying a larger home, figuring out your reasons why, what are the important reasons for you to move, is how can I afford it? What's everything going to cost? Who's going to help me figure that out? Do I need a loan? Do I need to get a loan for more than the house so I have extra money left over to do projects? How in the world do I get a hold of a lender? How do I measure what things are going to cost? Well, when we're talking about your finances, we know what the interest rates generally are now. Maybe you need to think about, is it really going to make sense to wait another few months? Maybe the interest rates will come down. Well, maybe they won't. In any event, we must get you pre-qualified with a qualified, preferably local lender who does nothing but home mortgages. And I can certainly help you with that. We need to know what your budget is because it's going to make home shopping for you a lot easier and a lot less frustrating. Of course, another piece to the puzzle is if you already own a home, let's try to figure out how much equity you have in that home and how much of that are you going to put towards the new home. Are you going to put it all for down payment? You're going to need closing costs. Do you even want to hold a little bit of that cash back for things you're going to need for the new house? Curtains, dishes, carpeting, paint, things like that. You always want to have a little extra cash for the just in case kind of stuff. So step three, what's the proper timing in buying and selling a house? Well, there is no one right answer for that. It's like when you go to the doctor, he has to listen to what you are saying and diagnose the problem because everybody is different. People will ask me, is it better to sell in the spring and the summer where I get more for my house? Will I get a better deal if I buy a house in the winter when no one else is looking? Well, the answer is yes and maybe and who knows, to be quite honest. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, so that's when the realtor actually comes and listens to you, brings a pad and pencil, and we figure out what you're most concerned about. We need to have that uncomfortable conversation that gets at what bothers you the most so we can make it bother you the least. So in that same respect, we're thinking about timing. How is it going to work if I have a house to sell and I need to buy a new house? I don't want to have to move twice. How am I going to have temporary housing? Is there such a thing? Are there bridge loans? People have all these questions and they're all quite normal. Well, we have real answers. And again, everybody's situation is a little bit different. This is where I usually bring my lender into the conversation so we can give you all sorts of options. My job is to help sort of diagnose your problem, give you options, and you make the decisions based on that evaluation. It is a little bit difficult if you need to sell your house and get the money out of that to move forward. Not impossible, but it's a challenge. Can't always pull it off, but most of the time we can. Most people aren't really aware of how to do that. That's where we've got the step-by-step process to help you do that. It can be done. Now comes the fun part, house hunting. And it ought to be somewhat fun. Selling a house, on the other hand, might be a little bit more stressful, but at least some part of it can be fun. A lot of people will go on various websites to look at houses, but there's nothing like being hooked up with a realtor where you can access my website directly and get the most relevant information that you possibly need. For sure, when we sit down for our first buyer's consultation, and yes, it is a real consultation, just like if you went to the lawyer or to the doctor, we need to get to know each other, and I would certainly take notes. We would focus on what area do you want to live in? What do you have to have? And I'd want you to write down on a pad and paper what you have to have, what would be nice to have, and we'll figure out how to bring all that together. And again, we bring our lender into the conversation because we have to know what you can afford or even what you're comfortable spending. It just makes things a lot easier when we finally find that right house. The other thing is when we're in the house, I want you to have fun looking at all the cool stuff. I'll find out if there's things you don't like about it. My job is to sort of look for code violations or red flags kind of behind the scenes, but I'm certainly not going to bring that up and be Debbie Downer if it's a house that's not too interesting for you. But again, it's a team effort. Everybody's looking at it from a different eye. One final point I'd like to mention in the house hunting is evaluating the potential home before we even go look at it. That's my job. It's my job to sit in front of the computer all day long and look for your perfect house. You have other things to attend to, your own job, your family. Let me do that work. That's what you're paying me for. I'm going to look at the seller's disclosures. I'm going to look at the Google Earth map. I'm going to look at the tax records and the school districts and all that, because sometimes we may decide not to see a house if some of those other things don't fit your needs, and that just saves us a lot of time. And then when we do find the right house, it's a lot easier to make the right decision and pull the trigger because you have all of the information you need. So step 5, the fun part, selling your current home. This is a process that we really need to begin several months before we even put the sign in the yard. There's so many factors to go over, and I just can't give you all of the details all at once. It would be so overwhelming. So I like to role play every scenario that's going to come with, so we're prepared if something doesn't go right. What do we need to declutter? What do we need to paint? What work do we need to do to the house? What if you just want to sell a house as is? What does that really mean? Does that mean we're just going to put it on the market and hopefully just sell it for top dollar? Not really. You still probably need to do a few things to get it presentable. How are we going to price it? How do we not overprice it? How do we get it on the market to sell quickly? And oh my gosh, what happens if the house sells quicker than we thought? Where are we going to go? Those are all things that we role play. I have a system for that, and it's bullet pointed for you so it makes sense. The fun part about selling a house in role playing, which I love to do, you've heard me say that a few times now, is negotiating. Because as you hear, everything is negotiable even up until closing day. How do we handle inspections? How do we handle, if we're lucky enough to get 3 or 4 or 5 offers, how do you know which is the best? The highest offer is not always the best if they've got contingencies or if they don't have a pre-approval letter. Those are all things that I have to use my spidey senses on to figure out what's legit and what's going to make sense for you. So negotiation and role playing is vital when it comes to this. Well, we're almost finished. We're at step 6, almost the final stages now. Your home is finally under contract. Now what happens? Well, because we've been working at this for a couple months, hopefully we're somewhat mentally prepared for some of the obstacles that come up. Now it's my job to do everything for you, or at least as much as possible. Get the inspections done. Talk to the insurance companies. Let's get everything squared away with the title folks. The lender, schedule your closing so it works for a convenient time for you so you can get into your new home and start enjoying it as quick as possible. When it's all said and done, upsizing to a larger home does not have to be as stressful as one might make it out to be. You've hired me, a professional realtor, to help walk you through all of the stages of this. It's my job and my pleasure to keep you focused on the end game, and that is getting it all done with the least amount of hassle and being very happy that you hired me as your agent. So if you're thinking about upsizing to a larger home or just exploring the options, that's great. I'll be happy to help you. Just click the button below. Thanks for watching, and I really look forward to helping you with your next move.